Hello, and welcome to this broadcast of Running on Love with God. My name is Lori Michelle, and I was awakened in April of 2009 to the voice of our Creator. He said, go get pen and paper, start writing, and I did. And now, all these years later, I'm sharing his voice and his wisdom. I'm here in Israel. My friend Anna Marie is in Chicago. Hello. And every week we share a program together where she asks questions about important topics and I share wisdom that I've learned along the way with the help of Hashem, because he speaks to me in plain English. And tonight we have a very important program about how we should all learn how to be happy, and it's a skill. And I entitled this program, Helpful Tips to Help You Smile when life is terrible. So everybody says it's a blessing to be happy, and we should be happy, and we should think positively. And when life is terrible, we don't want to hear any of that. In fact, the more we're around people who are too happy, it enrages us. I know that I feel that way. There have been days in my life where I felt so miserable that seeing someone else happy or seeing the sunshine hurt. I didn't even want to see the sunshine. That's how bad things got right after my spiritual awakening. So a complete blessing, a miraculous blessing, became my worst nightmare. And I learned over the years, more than ever, how to be happy when it's thundering and raining. And with that, I'm going to turn over the floor to you, Anna Marie, so you can ask me specific questions, and I will share.
Before I ask you for specific tips on how to be happy, in your image, you said that making children happy lasts for a moment in time.
Let me show the image.
Okay.
While you're saying it. So say what
and then it says teaching children how lasts for a lifetime. So my question is, did your parents not give you the skills that you needed to be happy? Because you said that it took you a while.
My parents did not, but are you asking in general?
No, you.
Mine in particular. We learn from our parents. We learn from our mentors. And growing up, my parents did not teach me how to be happy by their example or by just teaching me skills of how to cope. They did not teach me coping skills. My father, by his example, was very jovial, joked a lot, had a great sense of humor, and he was a fighter. He'd fight through things. He didn't believe in quitting. So he did teach certain skills by exemplifying them. But no one really sat me down and taught me how to be happy. And in the picture, you see the mom is blowing bubbles for the child. And the child's there, happy and smiling. It's very easy to make children smile and laugh. But it's very important to teach them how to be self-sufficient and not depend on other people to calm them down, or to be happy and to smile, or to deal with hardship. There are times we all need help, and children especially need the help of our parents and people around us to come to our aid. But we need to learn coping skills, and the younger we learn them, the better off we're going to be when we're older.
Okay, two-part question then. First, tell us how you taught yourself how to be happy. How did you learn it since you weren't taught it as a child? And then second part is, how can we teach that to our children? So first you, how did you teach yourself how to get through bad situations?
Fascinating question for me in particular, because there were a lot of things that I instinctually just knew. And I don't know exactly how I knew. Sometimes children are born with wisdom that defies their age. And at 7 years old, I was in constant prayer to God. And God was not a subject matter in my home. I was not raised to believe in God. No one spoke about God. I went to religious school, and it was a Reformed Jewish religious school. It barely even gave the spark notes on the Torah. So it wasn't taught to me. I simply adapted to life by praying, and I felt like I was being watched. But having said that, I had difficulties. I was bullied in school when I was young, as a lot of people are. I was tormented when I went through puberty, because girls sometimes are. They talk about the hashtag Me Too movement. Well, hashtag Me Too. I was sexually molested when I was 14. I was also, again, in an ER situation, which I will reveal in a book that I'm writing. I was molested by an ER doctor at 17 years old. And I don't know what the statute of limitations are, but I'm learning that there might be some grounds for some lawsuits. It was that bad. So I went through life, and a lot of difficult, challenging, horrible things happened to me. And so the way I learned was I learned to reach for books and people who exemplified happiness, because I knew instinctually there has to be a better way. So I became an addict of these self-help books. Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking, Dr. Wayne Dyer, you know I love Dr. Dyer. And I used to buy all of these books and read them voraciously all the time and work on myself, self-work.
Okay, but how did that pull you out of, you said there were days when it hurt to see the sunshine because you felt so bad, it made you upset to see something good. How do you pull yourself, when you're feeling like that, how do you pull yourself out of that?
Right. Well, that started with my spiritual awakening, and it was met with a lot of disbelief and a lot of horrors that I will reveal in my upcoming book. But how did I cope with it? I reached for God even stronger than ever. I was in a constant state of prayer, and I was reaching for the Bible, the Torah. I went to classes and I learned more, learning that I'm not the only one to experience depression and grief. And there are methods and techniques that we can all use to pull ourselves out of the abyss and get stronger. So here's where we're going to start going into helpful tips, things that I did for myself when it looked hopeless. It looked like my life truly had no value. So some of the things that I did was I read every day. I would read uplifting prayers. I prayed constantly. I surrounded myself with reminders. What do I mean by reminders? I mean, I have them in my house. I hang things on the wall. I keep reminders around everywhere. Well, in Judaism, we have the reminders on every doorpost called the mezuzah. And so I had mezuzahs. I would touch them and kiss them, and I would remind myself that God is everywhere. God is with me. But I also hang all kinds of reminders, and I have this one in my home, which says, smile until your face hurts. Little reminders, things to make you smile. Blessings. This is another blessing I've had for years in my home. This one happens to be in English, a home blessing. I can't read backwards, but it says, what does it say?
Okay, it says, may this home be a place of happiness and health, of contentment, generosity, and hope, a home of creativity and kindness. May those who visit and those who live here know only blessing, put it up a little higher, know only blessing and peace.
Yes, I have this. And people who know me, especially my children, know that I am totally addicted to those kinds of books, uplifting books, books where you can work on yourself, things where you can learn how to do mantras and positive thinking. And just this weekend, my daughter came to visit me and brought me a gift, and this is what she brought me.
Oh, nice.
This is tops, you know, this is great. After what I've been through, for my daughter to bring me this really warmed my heart. So reminders, put reminders everywhere. So that's one very big tip. But there's more. Prayer. God is real. I promise you he's real. I promise you he's listening. Pray all day and all night. If you have to, reach for him all day and night. Make yourself little prayers if you don't know the prayers. I know prescribed prayers, but thank him all day long. Every time you take a sip of water, thank him. He brought this into being. Also recognize that we're a chemistry bottle. Our bodies, our chemistry. We're a physical being. What we truly are is a spirit, and we're housed in this vessel that's made out of chemicals, blood, chemistry, and hormones. And you can help yourself through exercise and eating properly. And I know that sounds very hard to do for a lot of people. Oh, you're not telling me anything I don't know. But I'm telling you, when I was grief-stricken, I started running every day. I didn't miss a day. And Hashem told me one day when I was running and pounding out my grief, he said, running is the Lord's dance. And what he meant by that, and I know exactly what he meant, is it gets your endorphins going. It's very good for you. And if you can't run, walk, get out, get fresh air, take care of your vessel, your body, and it will take care of you.
How do you teach all that to children?
You must start as an example. And my children saw me from a young age going to the gym at 5 a.m., working out, running. I started running marathons in 2007, running for charity. And here's another, I'm glad that you brought that up. This is another good tip. Get out of your own way. What I mean by that is we all have problems. It's a human condition. We're being tested. Hashem puts trials and tribulations in our lives because he's testing our mettle, and through these adversities that we face, our spirit grows. That's when we grow the most and we ascend higher. So when you get out of your own way, you're thinking of other people and their problems and forgetting about your own. Doing charity work, volunteer work is very uplifting. Helping someone else with their problems and recognizing that someone else might have it even harder than you do. It's a very selfish thing to do, is be involved in charity and volunteer work.
I think I know your answer to this question, but is it okay to have a little glass of wine to get you through the tough spots, or a little Valium, or whatever it might take?
It's not only okay, it's a commandment, believe it or not. In the Bible, in the Torah, every Friday night we have a Shabbos meal, and we start with Kiddush, which is a blessing over wine. Wine is a blessing to us. And I'm not speaking of drinking the whole bottle and becoming a drunkard. That's actually against Bible law. You shouldn't do that. But a glass of red wine, a few sips of red wine, even every day with your meal, is very healing. And there have been studies that it's actually good for your physical health as well. I have read. Maybe you know these statistics, but I think it's good for your heart health and your blood pressure and all kinds of things.
Right, I've read that too.
Yes.
Okay, then what about pharmaceuticals? What about all the different antidepressants and anti-anxiety drugs? If you're doing that short term, is that okay to help get you through?
Well, I started out the program by saying that you can be so down and so depressed That's someone saying, come on, let's be happy. Someone who's too happy around you. You want to just take one of these things and hit them over the head. It's not, you can't go from being down in the gutter to being joyful. You need help in between. And it's not unreasonable to go to a doctor. If you can't get out of bed and you're not showering and you're not functioning, you need help. But it's not the answer. What you need to recognize is that when you're that down and you're that depressed, it's your soul screaming at you, something is wrong. You see, the truth is that we're not this. We're not this Play-Doh called a body. We are spirit. And when we become depressed and dysfunctional, it's because our spirit, the essence that we truly are, is depressed and knowing something is really wrong. So you need to do the self-work. You need to go introspectively and look at what's bothering me. Usually the first place, that's the best place to look and examine, is your relationship with our Creator. And that's, you know, a lot of atheists who aren't going to bother watching this program in the first place would argue against that. But that's a signal that you need to return to your Creator, to the essence of who you truly are. It's a wake-up call.
But you were doing that anyway in the rough times that you talk about. So what was different?
With me?
Yeah.
When I was awakened, everybody thought I lost my mind, and they force-fed drugs on me against my will. And like it or not, that's what happened. And when I woke up in an unthinkable situation, I realized, I knew that I had an awakening, and I knew it was him, because even with the medications, his voice never left me. And it became a folly where I had to lie and say I didn't hear his voice, because they were trying so hard to drug his voice out of me that they were killing me. So I didn't want to lose my family. I didn't want to lose my life. So I went along with the game. And I had a doctor pull me off all the drugs, but people were still saying that you can't hear God. And I was living a lie. I wasn't able to share his voice. And I was living with people who didn't believe in God, didn't want to follow the ways of God, didn't want to keep Shabbat, none of it. So it became acrimonious in my home, which was very depressing. The whole thing blew up in my face. The biggest gift in my life became the biggest hurdle in my life. How was I going to embrace my gift and learn about how I can hear the spirit world and God when everyone around me doesn't want to hear of it? Because that's crazy. No one can hear God. If you hear God, you're crazy, right? But no, you're not crazy. So it caused me to be very depressed. And so my situation is maybe not unusual, because people do go through awakenings and it's not accepted. But I even tried some of those antidepressants that we're talking about. And they work for a moment and then they wear off. And then you have something called a rebound. So you become this chemistry bottle where you're looking for the right cocktail to control your brain waves. You take a little of this, and then suddenly you're feeling low, so you take a little of that, and you pick yourself up, and it becomes a game, a drug game. You become a prescription drug addict, which sadly a lot of people fall into. And they're not aware of the fact that there are better methods than using these cocktails to control I call it the gefilte fish between your ears. There are better ways to control your emotions. Drugs might be an intervention early on. Like I said, if you're dysfunctional, you can't get out of bed, no one can talk to you, no one can reason with you, you need an intervention. But it's not the cure. The cure is God. The cure is your relationship with our Creator and following His laws.
When you're in terrible circumstances, how can you prevent yourself from thinking God has left me? Or how can you stop yourself from asking, why is God allowing this horrible thing to happen?
I recognize that a lot of people believe that or think that.
Yeah.
I'm not one of them, but I sympathize and empathize with people who are suffering from tragedies and thinking that God left them somehow. And I'm here to say that God doesn't leave us. We leave Him. He's always there patiently waiting. So if tragedy does strike, it has a reason that we cannot know. He knows everything. And this is where faith comes in, that we can believe in God and understand there's God in the world. And we can even believe that everything that God brings into being is good. But there's another level of faith where even bad things that happen to us, we need to learn and understand that they are also for our good. And that is complete surrender. Surrendering is the most healing energy that we can do when we're depressed, is surrendering to what is testing us and accepting that He knows better. He knows what's behind all of this. He knows why we're here and why these tragic occurrences need to happen to bring forward something more beautiful. What we're working for right now, Anna Marie, is world peace. So right now we're witnessing more tragedy, more grief, more death, more horrors than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
And He has to allow all of this into being for humanity to wake up and learn its lesson finally, and stop warring and start loving and healing. And that's why a lot of what we're seeing has to happen. A lot of people look at these terrorist incidents or the chemical weapons that were just dropped in Syria, or the school shooting in Parkland, Florida recently. All of these horrors that are happening. People who don't believe, or people who even do believe in God, will say, how could there be a compassionate God in the world for this to happen? Why didn't He intervene? And the short answer is, He allows. We choose, He allows. Good people don't necessarily choose tragedy to happen to themselves, but we're allowing a lot of the negative behaviors to continue. And all of this is part of a worldwide wake-up call for us all to wake up and do the work of world peace.
So if you're the victim of one of these tragedies, like say your child has died in one of the school shootings, how do you said you have to surrender to God in that moment. How do you do that? What do you do?
I'll tell you what I do. I have faced tragedy in my life, horrors, and my life is difficult now. You know, Anna Marie, my life is difficult. The way I cope is prayer. And He's here, and I hear Him, but I'm here to reassure you and everyone, He listens. And I reach for Him, and when you reach for Him in a passionate way, the way I do, He responds, and you need to look for the signs. Some people call them God winks, and you'll see things that look like a coincidence, and they're not. But all I can say is I pray passionately for everyone, for everyone's well-being. And sometimes I know the answer is simply no. I've prayed for people who have cancer and they died, and His answer was no. because he knew it was their time to cross over. So surrender means knowing that he knows more than we do. He knows why we're here, how long we're supposed to be here, what our journey and purpose is. And we don't know all of that information. So, and that's compassion, truly, that we don't know, because we wouldn't be able to accomplish all the things that we're supposed to accomplish if we knew. I know it sounds strange, but that's the truth. Let me give an example of my own acceptance and surrender.
Okay.
When I learned I was going deaf, clinically deaf, and I've lost most of the hearing in both ears. This ear is completely deaf. I have a cochlear implant. This ear is almost gone, my left ear. But I didn't know what deafness meant. I was told there was no hope. I was told the surgery was terrible, that I should never want to have that surgery. So when I got the news from the audiologist that you are going deaf and your only hope is surgery, I had a meltdown. I went home and I quite literally had a panic attack, which I didn't know what it was. It felt like I was having a heart attack. And my husband at that time, when I was married, gave me a sedative to calm me down. I couldn't even breathe. I couldn't even speak. That's how panicked I was. And the next day, I said, you know, I can't do this. This is not functional. This is not working for me. So if I'm going deaf, I better accept it. I better go online today and spend the day researching what it's like to be deaf, what it's like to have this operation. What if this operation doesn't work? What does a life as a deaf person look like? And I worked 24 hours. I worked for hours. I went on the computer and I made being deaf okay. I will live. So surrender. Surrender to the unthinkable, something that you think you can't accept under any circumstances, and understand that it was brought to you because it was something you needed in your life. And he knows what we need. And sometimes we need tragedy and hardship to achieve what we ultimately have to achieve here.
So the topic of this show is how to be happy. What you just said is that
I spent too much time on being miserable. But see, look, I'm still laughing.
right.
I'm happy.
But my question was going to be, is it important to accept that you are not going to be happy all the time?
Yes! It's not a
Okay.
crime to cry. There we go.
So go ahead. Sum up.
I've talked to very Torah observant people, and they say it's a mitzvah to be happy. We're supposed to be happy all the time. Well, what happens if we're not happy? And the worst thing you can do to someone who's unhappy is walk up to them and say, come on, smile. Boom! It's okay. You're allowed to be unhappy. What's negative, what's sinful is to stay unhappy. Why? Because if you're miserable and you're unhappy and you're playing the victim, you're not achieving anything in your life. You can't get anything good done if you're down in the dirt. You've got to pick yourself up, you've got to wipe yourself off, and you got to climb. As Miley Cyrus' song says, it's all about the climb. It's a great song. I love that song, The Climb. Go look it up. But that's what it is. It's all about the climb and ascending. And the way to get there, number one, is reach for God. Number two, get active, run and be active, get out and eat properly. And number three, get out of your own way. There is someone out there that has it worse than you. Go help someone. Give them a hand. The hand you extend is the one that lifts your own soul. I promise you. Love heals. So God bless you. Go to lauriemichelle.net. There are more programs there. I hope some of these tips helped. And all I could say is smile till your face hurts. when you can, and if you can't, it's okay. Just keep climbing. This is the work of world peace. Share this program, and God bless you. May there be world peace in our time. God bless you.